1,138 days ago, I began learning German, and after getting my vocabulary above the 10,000 word range and reading 25 books and listening and watching to thousands of hours of podcasts and audiobooks and YouTube videos, here are the 10 most important lessons that I learned along the way. Lesson number 1. To learn a language, you don't need a why, you need a what. I could tell you that my why for learning German was connecting with family and satisfying intellectual curiosity, but those are multi-year goals that don't tell me exactly what to do to improve. In the past 3 years, what's worked best for me is finding something that I wanted to do that happened to be in German and then pursuing that single-mindedly. The Easy German Street interviews were the first playground that I had with German, where I would watch one video every single day, no matter what, and I got used to the sound of the language and also was able to find a lot of vocab. But after 2 months, I wanted a different challenge, so I bought this book, and I decided that I would read one page a day, rain or shine, and learn every single word on that page, despite not knowing much German at the time. And after about 6 months, with 2,000 words more in my vocabulary, I finished. Then I needed a new what, so I did it again by undertaking reading Harry Potter. Then there was another new what of the podcast Was Jetzt, a daily current events podcast from Die Zeit. My current what project is a collected works that's about 3,000 pages from the 1860s, and that will take me years to finish. And I also plan on reading through Mein Kampf at some point, because that's a very interesting what for me. Over the past 1,000 days, I've had about 15 of these what projects, and that's in addition to the standard watching and listening that I'm doing during the day with German. While each of these projects help me progress in the short term, they also help me move forward in the long term as well, because they scratch that curiosity itch, and now my wife and I have a 2-year-old who speaks both English and German. So the first lesson is to find something that you want to do that just happens to be in your target language, and you pursue that single-mindedly. Lesson number 2, aim to get at least 10,000 words of input in your target language every single day. That number might sound like a lot, but it's a surprisingly attainable goal to hit every day. That's roughly an hour of listening or watching in your target language, or 20 pages in a standard book. If you think about Netflix, YouTube, podcasts, or social media scrolling that you're already doing, repurpose that for language learning. For me, that means watching videos from LP in die Astronomie about the current solar maximum, or investigative pieces from Alicia Joe, or it could be podcasts from Die Zeit or Süddeutsche Zeitung, or it could be crazy conversations from Fest und Flauschig. My favorite German content is linked in the description down below, but by pivoting your internet downtime towards language learning, you're able to scratch the itch for doom scrolling while also enriching your mind. Lesson number 3. No amount of learning will ever prepare you for that one mumbling elderly person from Bavaria. You can have as large of a vocabulary as you want with command over all the intricacies of German grammar. But know that somewhere in a corner of Bavaria or some other tiny town with a regional accent, there is a German lying in wait, ready to thwart your years of effort. Listen to lectures with formal language, listen to conversational podcasts, listen to round-table discussions. If possible, hang out with a group of Germans, where, as my wife recently pointed out, the fast pacing and colloquial conversation layered on top of mumbling can be the final frontier for keeping up with conversation in any language. But you should know that somewhere there is an Uta or a Karl waiting to humble you with a kind, indecipherable comment. And when you want to watch more and use immersion as a tool for your language learning, Lingopie is a resource that can help. Lingopie is a great streaming service with language learners in mind, with quality content if you're just starting out or if you're looking for something that's a bit more advanced. Quality and entertaining content that comes with resources tailored for language learning is especially hard to come by, and Lingopie hits the nail on the head in balancing all 3 of these things. They currently have 9 languages supported within the platform itself, but where the story-based content approach really shines is their Netflix integration, which opens up an even bigger library of content for you to choose from for language learning. As an example of Lingopie's powerful tools, you can choose if you want 1, 2, or even 0 languages for the interactive subtitles that they have. These subtitles are responsive and minimally intrusive, so you can watch, do a quick lookup, and then return to watching with minimal friction. And as you're watching and doing these quick lookups, you can make note cards with just one click. If the comprehensible input approach matches your style and you want to support a company enabling channels like this, Lingopie has a 7-day free trial and is offering a hefty 55% off of their annual plan. Links for all of this are in the description down below and in the pinned comment, and a big thank you to Lingopie for partnering on this video. And now on to lesson number 4. We are what we do repeatedly. Duolingo every day is a recipe to improve at Duolingo, but it's also a bet that it's the most fun and effective way to learn a language that will actually apply to using a language in real life. But does picking options from a word bank or speaking quietly into your phone translate into being able to watch a TV show or participate in a conversation? No, it does not. You improve in German or any other language by doing the things that you want to do in that language. You can use a textbook or an app like Duolingo to ease yourself into the language, but sooner or later you're going to have to make a transition to actually engaging meaningfully with content and people in your target language, ideally on a daily basis. 1,000 days ago, I started with an introductory textbook in German so that I wasn't completely lost as I started learning the language. But I had enough classroom experience with Spanish and with Hebrew to know that if I didn't switch over to compelling content, that yes, I would be able to fill out conjugation tables, but I would never be able to meaningfully engage either with another person or good content in German. Lesson number 5. Don't assume you know a word in German or any language just because it sounds similar to English. There are lots of cases where German sounds like English if you squint at it, but as you get better at German or any language, you'll quickly learn that being able to recognize a word does not mean that you can produce it when you want to speak, even if the word is similar to your native language. Yeah, you're at an advantage if you recognize that Kultur is just culture and Konflikt means conflict, but you have to do that for thousands and thousands of words to work to understand when you can just pronounce an English word with a German pronunciation versus when that doesn't work at all. At this point in history, basically every language has loan words from English, but there's still going to be plenty of landmine words that will trip you up. For example, Wippe does not mean whip, and hell in German means light, and Rat means advice, and there are plenty of others. Lesson number 6. Your progress is actually linear, but it feels like punctuated equilibrium. In 10th grade biology, I learned about 2 theories of evolution: constant improvement or punctuated equilibrium. Constant improvement means that with every generation of a species, there's a consistent trend upwards in terms of improvement. The concept of punctuated equilibrium, on the other hand, says that you in general have periods of calm that are interrupted by quantum leaps in terms of development. Examples of this are when life moved from swimming in oceans to walking on land, or when you have species like us humans that went from a plant-based diet to a cooked meat diet. There's just an explosion of growth. When you're learning German or any language, your progress is actually incremental, with every single day pushing you closer and closer to fluency. Your brain processes and internalizes more with every page that you read, every video that you watch, every word that you learn, and every grammar structure that you unlock. But the way that progress feels is more like a once-in-a-while lightning flash, or punctuated equilibrium. That's when you recognize a word for the first time, or when you can read an entire page of a book without referencing a dictionary. When you begin thinking in your target language for the first time, or when someone asks you a question and you respond with such eloquence and fluency that you surprise even yourself. The key is to trust the process and continue working day in and day out working on your German so that even in those periods in between the quantum leaps, you still feel motivated by the progress that you're laying the foundation for. Lesson number 7. Find sweetness even in the points of frustration with German. Oh, you're learning a language and you're frustrated with articles or tenses or something else in your language? Welcome to the club. All joking aside, I implore you to find some way to be optimistic about even the harder parts of learning your language. I will never forget hearing the single word Lieblingskartoffelzubereitungsmethode for the first time. This 40-letter word is a great example of the German concept of compound words, and also presents a light way of approaching something that can be completely disorienting. And the German language has so many examples of this. Handschuh, Zahnfleisch, Ey Deutschland, Alter, bist du blau? And lesson number 8. There's a monster hiding where you don't want to go. That monster guards the way forward. As you progress, there will be times where you get comfortable in your learning and don't see any progress. This is often called the intermediate plateau. The thing is that this can happen at almost any point past the beginner stage in almost any skill. So that could be watching or listening, writing or speaking. It's helpful to do introspection if you feel like you're stagnating, but that's hardly novel advice. But where to pay attention to is where you feel some emotional resistance to improving a skill. As an internet introvert, for me, that was speaking in German, and it was the same story with Hebrew. Anytime I try to speak, I feel like I'm pressing on the gas pedal and the brake pedal at the same time because I know what I want to say, but I don't know perfectly how to say it, so I'd rather just avoid conversation. But after getting an italki gift card as a birthday present, conversations with a tutor forced me to stay in that discomfort, but without the social cost of awkward silences. And surprisingly, improving my speaking actually meant that I could read more fluently because I better knew what to expect. Look, if writing or speaking in German just isn't a priority for you right now, continue doing what you're doing. Or if reading doesn't matter at this point because you're just looking to get conversational, viel Glück. But if your German exposure and only language learning is through Duolingo, then you're probably trying to avoid that crushing feeling of trying to watch a video and failing. And if all you're doing is watching and listening, you might be just trying to avoid the discomfort of speaking. What I got from learning this lesson is that there are opportunities to grow in areas where you're emotionally resistant, and who knows how much that can unlock. And here's lesson number 9. Learning about language learning does not equal language learning. I cannot emphasize this enough. Learning about languages instead of spending time with the language you actually want to learn is like attending a meeting when you actually have work to do. Spend time with German. Don't worry about optimizing your settings in Anki for your note cards. Spend time with German, not r/language learning. Listen, I genuinely love the content put out by channels like Language Jones and Days in Words, but they, like me, are making educational entertainment about languages in the hope that you'll study better. Unless you're trying to use this content specifically to learn English, any one of the suggestions put forth and explored in any one of these videos would take dozens of hours to put into practice, and something tells me that the implementation just isn't happening for most viewers. If you're interested in learning about how to learn languages, enjoy that as a parallel but separate activity that's going to suck away time from the time that you spend with German or any other language. And lesson number 10, travel is a time for gratitude and a little bit of hustle. If you have the luck, opportunity, and means to travel to or move to a country where your target language is spoken, it can be a profoundly rewarding experience. It's a time for gratitude to immerse in another culture and connect with others. I'd recommend a little bit of hustle by preparing as much as you can, by doing somewhat of a boot camp in preparation, by doubling the amount of immersion and speaking practice you do before your trip. Save a few extra bucks and some room in your suitcase for souvenirs and books, but know that any event or museum that you go to will probably have brochures or maps for free that you could snag to read when you're back home. Und das war's. That's all I've got for this one. Hopefully those 10 lessons from 1,000 Days in German were helpful for you to plan out your learning. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't done so yet, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you in the next one.